Okay, we're going to proceed as follows. I introduce you as the organizers of this event, then I will introduce our guest speakers, then we start the debate on the following questions. Of course, we start by the questions and the guests give their considerable this. Then we, at the same time, maybe we can also receive the participants' questions. Okay. So, sorry, I'm just going to mute you, Professor, so I can introduce us. Okay. So I'll start maybe by myself. I'm Dr. Wafa ZEKRI. I'm specialized in applied linguistics. I graduated with an MA from Clemson University and a PhD from Northampton, UK. My research publications are extensively in applied linguistics. I work in areas related to identity narrative research, and recently I have moved my interest to EMI, online learning. I have published journal articles on Scopus, on professional teacher professional identity, the TPI. I have also a book chapter on EFL, writing and feedback in multilingual matters, and I'm currently interested in EMI. My current work also explores learning spaces through sustainable frameworks and integrated AI competencies. I'm a reviewer in Scopus and ERE journals, national and international ones. Now I introduce Professor Lamri Chemseddine, who is a full lecturer in the Department of English at Clemson and University of Clemson. His research interest is mostly related to EFL teachers' professional development in ESP and EMI contexts. He has published papers on e-learning and teaching legal English for law professionals, linguistic interference, arts, culture, and identity during French colonization. He has been a chief of domains of office in charge of syllabus and curriculum design for many years. He has communicated his experience with us through teachers' workshops and meetings. He is also my former teacher and a good event partner in terms of flexibility and mainly open-mindedness to ideas. Now I call for our first guest speaker. I started by the youngest man in the room, though he is the youngest man, but he is in charge of English department. He works as a head of department at Relizan University. So he holds a PhD in TESOL and Applied Linguistics from Manchester Metropolitan University, UK. His research interests include research methodology, didactics, learner autonomy, and the use of distance and blended learning in language education. I'm quite looking forward to how autonomy as a concept and an action can be effective in a research journey. Looking forward to hear from your expertise, Dr. Abdulqadir. Now my second guest speaker, a very beautiful, nice lady, Amira Bil Abdelkader, is currently an associate professor in applied linguistics at the University of Constantine I, Kharmantouri. She has obtained a PhD degree in modern languages and linguistics from the University of Southampton, UK. She has published academic papers in index journals with reputable publishers. Her recent publications were released this year: an entry about English in Algeria in the Blackwell-Wiley Encyclopedia of Word Englishes, and a book chapter about EMI in Algeria with Springer. She is now researching inclusion and accessibility in Algerian higher education institutions, the use of AI by students for self-grading, AI and plagiarism in academic writing, family language policy and Englishization of English or of Algerian education and the integration of students in Algerian higher education institutions. She reviews for many journals, including Cogent Education and Frontiers in Education. She is a senior reviewer for the American Association of Applied Linguistics conferences. At last, Amira believes that learning never stops, and exchanging knowledge, expertise, and perspectives are fundamental for self-development. I cannot agree more. Now, my third guest speaker is Dr. Najat Khniwi. She's an associate professor and a dearest friend and colleague. She is working at Algiers University 3. She specializes in applied linguistics and language teaching from the University of, she has got a PhD from University of Constantine 1, Kharmantouri. Her research interests include didactics, call, course design and materials design and evaluation, ESP, EST, and EMI. She has an article on Web of Science on EFL teachers as designers of ubiquitous learning experiences. She has recently published a book chapter, which I really liked, on Springer, proposing the concept of quality assurance frameworks in empowering email educators in Algeria. Okay, so these are our guest speakers. Now I'm going to maybe give a word to Professor Lamri if he wants to say something. Unmute yourself, please, Professor.
Thank you. Well, thank you, dear guests. Well, I really appreciate the fact that you have introduced our guests, but as you know, I don't like that I speak about my achievements. Of course, they are not limited to some articles with my little experience in as a teacher, as a supervisor. I get the opportunity to meet many interesting PhD students, researchers, as you know, and this is what we call this is life. Life is full of experiences. These experiences are very interesting. The fact of meeting, the fact of sharing, the fact of information, knowledge is very important. And this is why I like to thank you.
Thanks to you.
Dr. ZEKRI Wafa for organizing such interesting event in order to share views, in order to and experiences. As I told you, we need such interaction in order to develop knowledge. The fact of listening to others' experience is very interesting. So I will not take too much time. I think that the floor is yours, and I hope all best for all listeners and participants to الله يجعلها صدقة جارية. This is the word.
شكرا جزيلا لك. Okay, now through this panel discussion, we look at how research from individual and intellectual trajectories can raise awareness of our ontologies and epistemologies, which influence our research ideas, data, and interpretations. Research, I believe, is a way to integrate into words vision, creating our own directions to it, not always allowing it to dominate our directions. Now I'm calling for my guests to join me, and we kick off the session by three raised fundamental questions, which I was looking for to discuss with and for PhD students. Hi, Amira. So I'm going to say or read the first question and put it down into the chat box for everybody to read and to reflect on. So our first question is, how do you perceive yourself as a researcher? and I put between brackets duties and roles. So I want to hear your voices, to know your experiences, to share your experiences / expertise with our esteemed PhD students. The floor is yours. You can always be the first, be the second, or be the last. It doesn't matter. Thank you.
Shall I go first?
Yes, go, Amir.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you so much, Wafa, for the invite and for having us. It is really interesting that you organized such a discussion. It's out of the ordinary. We usually have pre-prepared presentations and present them in front of the attendees and then engage in the Q&A session. With regards to my role as a researcher, to be honest, I would like to highlight that I still consider myself a novice researcher. I'm still in my early years, although I'm an associate professor, but I still think that there is a lot for me to learn, and I still have to develop my research skills. As for my role and duties, I think the first role of a researcher is to engage in exchanging knowledge and never be, so always be generous, whether disseminating the work they publish or disseminating the ideas they have, or even perhaps sharing the problems that they might face in the research journey. And this is, since this is a doctoral or an event for PhD students, I would insist on it for doctoral students, because the environment perhaps in Algeria does not really, but I really encourage them to create those opportunities to share between themselves their ideas, even if it is related to their PhD thesis, but they still need to voice out any struggles they are facing, any things that they come across which is quite new for them, any theory that they feel it is complicated to be understood. So my role, I guess, is to facilitate this event for PhD students and for myself and for my colleagues. And as part of my duty, I think I should be perhaps not a role model, but something like an example at least to follow for colleagues and for doctoral students, showing good conduct, ethical practices in research and even in teaching, since we have double roles, and also do not keep opportunities for myself and always share them with others. I think this is a duty rather than something that I do out of being nice or kind. Yeah, this is it for me.
Thank you, Amira, for talking about your own aims and your passion to share knowledge and to give as much as you can. Because this is what we start to feel since we are PhD students. We feel that we need to have others to not face hurdles that maybe we have faced and we didn't have enough guidance to go through.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Yes,
Definitely.
Najat, do you want to be the second?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Wafa, for bringing us together and for all the efforts you have invested in bringing this event to life. Thank you for the idea of the panel discussion and for inviting the PhD students, and we hope that they will benefit from this discussion. And of course, we ourselves, we will benefit from this discussion, and it will of course have an internal impact on who we are, both as educators and as researchers. Yes, I join my voice to what Amira, if I may, of course, say. And building, I would insist, yes, start from what you ended up, and building a community of practice is a must. It's not a luxury in our field. And this is actually how I perceive myself as a researcher. A researcher has to build a community of a practice, someone who doesn't work in isolation, but who works in collaboration with others. Do not think that if you share what you have with others, that this will undermine your status, or that you will lose what you have, or that others would steal your ideas, because this is very common. Now, the more we collaborate, the more we exchange, the more we grow together, and the more we appear and elevate the status of what we are and what actually we do. More than that, I perceive myself as a practitioner besides being a researcher, because I strongly believe that research that doesn't lead to actionable practices is worthless. And for that, a commitment to integrity, inclusivity, and of course, scholarly impact is again a must. It's something that we have to stick to if we are to disseminate our research, and for this research to have an impact, and a strong impact both on the national or the international level. For this, iterative cycles are also again necessary, because the way we start research and the way we publish it and we end up with it requires a perseverance, requires adaptation, requires struggles, and requires a strong commitment to the work and to what we actually do. And this brings us to our core duties as researchers. I believe that we need to design and conduct ethically first, sound, as Amira already said, context-sensitive research, not just talk about abstract things. But myself, if you come across my papers, I guess you can find out that most of the research I conduct is problem-based. I always try to find solutions to real-life problems, either at the micro, macro, or meso levels. When I say the micro level, I have always started by looking at my classroom. What are the problems that do exist in my classroom, especially as an ESP practitioner, and what are the solutions that come about, and put these solutions into practice, and then, of course, recycle. Try this solution. If it doesn't work, I will try another one, and so on and so forth, in a cyclic manner. At the meso level, we have a commitment to our institutions by building up appropriate curricula, syllabi, programs, teacher training programs, and why not PhD training programs, as the one that you that we are having today. At the national level, the macro level, we have also a commitment to our nation, to our Algeria, I would say, and this commitment has to help us put into practice and to find solutions, frameworks, and I would also say actionable strategies, roadmaps for any reforms that either are underway or are to come as a necessity of going global, and of course entering the internationalization. As for our roles, and to fulfill all of these duties, actually we have to, I would say, wear different hats. And these hats can, I would talk actually about 3 of them, of course, and they can be more than that, but I'm talking about from my humble experience, we have to become or to be a conceptual innovator. So we do not read theory for the sake of reading theory itself, but we have to come out with or to formalize conceptual frameworks that guide and shape pedagogical practices at all the levels, and linguistic, of course, programs at all the levels, as I have already explained. Building a community of practice, and for this we have to work as connectors or coordinators that bring bridging or building bridges across disciplines, languages, institutional contexts, and this is also has to be done both at the national and international level. So bringing people together and working collaboratively with them is something that we have to do as researchers and that we have to accept, okay, and to exchange. And of course, one of our basic roles is to bridge policy practice or become policy practice monitor, that is translating our research into actions, into insights for the educational reform. So be they at the micro classroom level, meso institutional level, or the macro national levels. This is actually what I have to say about the first.
Thank you very much, dear Najat. Maybe in a summary of your talk, I can mention three main terms that I really appreciate to have in my career. First is perseverance, how much we feel committed and how much we should respect our commitment to research, to our work. Though we also, as humans, we face a lot of challenges, social conditions, but we always remind ourselves that we are engaged in this and we are committed to this. We have to finish and complete our tasks. Maybe the second one, which I also agree with you on, is conducting evidence-based research that stems from our classrooms to question what are our pedagogical problems, what are the students' needs, lacks, and maybe future orientations of these students. The third also term which I can deduce is networking, collaboration, and partnership with others, learning from others, and others also learn from us. So in research, we have to widen up the horizon through networking and collaboration with people, national people at the local level or at an international level, and what really matters in shaping our understanding and mindsets in research. Okay, now it's time to give the floor to Abdul Qadir. I think he has also things to share with us. Yes.
Thank you so much, Wafa, for organizing this event. And hopefully by the end of this event, we'll be able to share ideas, brainstorm new ideas. I'm going to share with you my experience. So when we're speaking, let's say you are an Algerian, you have, let's say, you've done your master's. At the level of a master and anything before that, there isn't much of a researcher identity, really. I mean, you may do some projects from now and then. Your teacher might ask you to do things, related to your studies, but there isn't that solid identity of a researcher, of an autonomous researcher to depend on yourself, really. However, let's say after some time you have succeeded, let's say in a PhD contest, or you went on a scholarship like many of us here, then all of a sudden you are facing this situation of you having to do most of the things by yourself. And that's the crisis. So you'll need supervision, you'll need what we call entourage, you'll need guidance. And that's going to be the beginning of you putting yourself out there. And you are in that discovery phase of figuring the identity of a researcher by yourself. And when you're speaking about your identity as a researcher, it's a very complex thing. You cannot really put your finger on it. So everything is really interrelated, because it's not only about research. It's kind of, sometimes I feel like it's a way of life. For example, I have lived most of my life with my parents, and I went to England. Then all of a sudden I have to do everything by myself. So I need to, that perseverance that you get from doing your own laundry is going to also help you in reading books, you see. So that energy that you invest in cooking your own meal, you're also going to invest it in, figure out which passage you're going to include in a particular chapter or something like that. And also, there is no one was there to help me out when it comes to waking up in the morning. No one is helping you out when it comes to your short-term funds. So everything is a bit like interconnected. You cannot really separate the researcher from your life. And also, I think it's more of a mindset. There was a time when my way of thinking has just changed. Yeah, you started to question everything. So, for example, I'm thinking, and you know Khawla Badwan. So most of the time, whenever I write something, then she tells me, why did you write that? Why did you do that? Why not this? Why this and not that? So this kind of mindset of questioning everything, I adopted it in my life. So you see like the interrelation between you becoming a researcher, you growing as a researcher, and how it impacts your life, and how things that happen actually in your life can also impact your researcher identity. And I also have to add that when it comes to researching, you just need to put yourself out there. It's going to be extremely difficult for you just to work by yourself. It's always good to surround yourself with people who are willing and able to help. Yeah. For example, I don't know, the conference that I organized yesterday. It was with the help of my colleague. It was an idea, then it developed into a seminar. Then we said, okay, why a seminar? Why not a national conference? You see, so but it wasn't. If it wasn't for his help, if it wasn't for the help of the organizing committee, the scientific committee, that conference would not have been achieved. You see, so networking is very, very, very important for making research and in one way or another developing your identity as a researcher.
Thank you, Abdelkader, very much for your discussion of the concept of identity, which I really like. It has taken a huge part in my PhD talking about learn identity development through narratives and stories. So let me just share. Maybe Huda Zawar is saying, I would also highlight to Abdelkader that the point of the role of community, doing a PhD can't be perceived as a lonely journey, but submerging yourself with a community of PhD students makes feel you are not alone and you are not the only one going through difficulties. Yeah, that's a good point. Amira, yes, Amira, you want to say something?
Yeah, I actually thank Najat and Abdelkader for raising these points about creating a community. I would just like to say that when selecting the members of your community, those members shouldn't be really just researching applied linguistics. It is very interesting or very useful to have people who are researching other things, even other aspects of applied linguistics, because having outsiders or outsider perspectives would give you really a broader image. Because when we, let's talk about myself, where I immersed myself a lot in interculturality, but it helped me a lot to mingle with people who are doing research about identity, who are doing research about migrants and transnationalism, who did research about teacher development and training. So all these aspects really helped me. And the other thing that helped me is that I mingled even with people who are doing chemistry, mathematics, physics, law, music, history. So all those people, I consulted them when I feel like stuck. Am I making sense? So again, my role as a researcher and my duty is to connect people and not really dissociate myself and say, no, you do not belong to my area. So I keep you away because I'm not going to benefit from you. We benefit from everyone. I even benefited from my sister, who was just studying a master's degree in maths. So I was sending her my paragraphs and saying, am I making sense? She is not very fluent in English. She knows just the basics, but I still needed her, and I needed many people around me, even in my social circle. So again, our duty as researchers is not like when creating the community or being part of a community is not doesn't mean that we are going to be like in a bubble, but rather we are in a bubble which has many, let's say, holes. So we can still, like as a sponge, okay? So we can keep people inside, and we can also reach out to others from outside. This is it I wanted to say.
Thank you, Amira. Professor Lamri, do you want to say something? Unmute yourself, please.
Again. Well, thank you, dear participants. I really appreciated listening to you. But I have some remarks, if you allow me. What you have said concerning the environment doesn't encourage collaboration. But at the same time, I have listened about research identity, and also it is important to build a community of researchers. All what I have said now were advocated by the three speakers now. Of course, in my opinion, it is very important to make a distinction between the different types of researchers. Are we speaking about PhD researchers, or are we speaking about a researcher as a permanent researcher in academic setting? So here, as it is clear, a researcher, a PhD researcher, is more involved in practical research, empirical research, with a limited period of time, looking for results, looking for to write a thesis and so on in order to, for a specific purpose. But his target is to get what we call a degree in order to. Wow. But if we speak about researcher, and I have started my speaking as I told you again, that life is research.
Yeah.
Building what we call an identity is one of the tasks that is promoted at the micro level, as it is said, by the Algerian policy of education broadly. And the different programs proposed in the different levels of education, starting from try to promote what we call an active learning, a research idea, but unfortunately, this is more a problem of cultural conception. Here, in my classrooms, each time I said to my student, you are a student, so you are a scholar, so you are supposed to be a researcher. But they are more here, they take a place in order to consume knowledge from the standard, that is to say, the teacher, without making the necessary effort in order to understand and to study, this is the word, by themselves, and to make research to develop knowledge. And if some students, are not generalizing, but those involved in this process will build an identity at the end. And those who will build this identity of a researcher will collaborate after by taking part in the different laboratory. As we have an example here, Wafa is an example of, she is taking part in our research lab, and she is an active researcher. She is always doing her best in order to propose things as today meeting. So I think that it is more a matter of awareness about the roles, the different roles, student role, PhD researcher role, and teacher as a researcher also role. If it is clear for our context, of course, we can bring what we call the global ideas and adapt them locally in order to be what we call an active participant in this social life by providing answer to observe the fact. So this is my point of view, and I really appreciated what you have said. Thank you so much. I'm listening. I'm here.
Thank you very much for your point or raising your points. Myself, I consider students in my classroom as collaborators because I personalize the activities. I get closer to them, either in pair work or group works. I discuss with them, and sometimes I find out who are my students at a personal level, at social level, at an economic level. So getting to know your students is a way of doing research about them and with them, and considering them as collaborators will really inform your research if you are interested to improve your teaching approaches, methodologies, you're looking to implement new skills or approaches for research purposes or for even professional development. Okay, I would like to read Amira Sherifi would like to say that such as your personal identity impact your identity as a researcher. Yeah, definitely. And the other way around, your PhD also shapes your identity, that sense of criticality, questioning everything and looking to get the best answer you can and not take anything for granted does also transfer your personal life. Definitely, questioning is part of becoming a researcher, because if you don't question, then why are you doing a research? Okay, I'm just looking at the comments. Okay, Shahra, we'll go back to your question maybe at some point of our event. Now, without any further ado, I will call my guest speakers to get ready for my second question for this panel discussion. How does, and this is very practical, and I hope to hear a lot of anecdotes, because learning happens through a story, and the story makes our narratives and shape our identities. Question 2, how does your research context make your reshaping of perspectives in connection to theory, framework, or model? Or the other way around, because it could be the theory that informs the context, or as you have mentioned in your first question discussion, that we are supposed to be context sensitive and we have to know our research background, where we come from. Okay, Najat, yes, I give you the floor.
Okay, thank you, Wafa. Thank you for all of you for what you were saying. I would love to start this in this particular question, because actually my context has had a great impact on me, both as a researcher and on the research I conduct. Being an ESP practitioner, teaching technical English for engineers for about 10 years, I have bumped upon a lot of obstacles, a lot of problems, and most of these actually, and all of these have been turned into research that is being disseminated. So as an anecdote, I will talk about this particular paper that I have recently written, and actually, thank God it's has been accepted. Is one of the problems that I faced in my English for engineering class is that the students fail to bridge the link, or to find out the link between technical English and what they are studying in the classroom, and how are they going to use this into their real life. More than that, given the overload that they come to the English class to relax. And when they come, okay, and this goes for both good students and the slow learners. So it was a problem that I have come across, not just with the slow learners because of their proficiency level, but also with the good achievers or those with a good level in English. And they always question why I came to the English classroom to relax. So the idea of learning English is often related to, I would say, entertainment and relaxing for them. And when they come, they find themselves that they are really across something that is new to them. They have to focus, they have to learn. And at times they say, this is boring, this is tedious, this is monotonous. Why would I have to study through this while I can still do or discuss, I would say, topics that are lighter and that are more fun than what we are having. So I have this burden of engaging them. I have to find out solutions to engage these students. And as a solution, actually, I have had to come closer to my students, as you said, Wafa, and I have had to build strong personal relationships with them that have led me to find out that this generation is tech savvy. And I have to exploit this tech savviness in their classroom. And among the everyday activities that they do is that they build applications, they do videos and share them. So I have turned to digital multimodal composing as a solution to this exigent situation. And I have actually designed many project works, many tasks, and this, of course, because of the training I had at l'ENS Constantine, because as an option, or my subspecialty is course design and evaluation in my magister studies. And this actually has helped me to design tasks, project works in the form of tasks that follow a task-based approach in their sequencing. And I will give you an example of such tasks. In one of the projects, actually, I had a unit about material properties. So in this unit, I explain, of course, to the students. They learn about physical forces, characteristics of materials, a material that is tough, a material that is soft, a material that can resist heat, a material that is waterproof, and the like. So to bring this into life, I have took the movie, the very famous movie, international movie Titanic, as an example. And I took the idea of the sinking, and they have to explain why did the Titanic sink so quickly based on what the using the terminology that we have learned and the cause effect, of course, this cause level that they have to them. And of course, this helped them bridge theory and practice and learn the utility of using or learning technical English in real life. So they had to turn this into a video documentary where they have to explain in scientific terms, explore scientific theories, and of course that are related to their domain and to this particular unit and present it into a documentary. Of course, it was tough, it was hard. I have, Amira, it's like scenario based. It happened in processes because I had to teach the unit first, and later on I had taught them how to write a script for a documentary video. And then of course I have brought them into groups, and in the groups, of course, I have made sure that every student had a contribution, because some students have a very English, not know software that can, I would say, video-based software or video editing software. So I have made sure that the 3 students or the 4 students in the group, each one of them has something to share to the project. And later on, they had actually to disseminate, of course, the work in the classroom, explain the project, show us the video, discuss it together, refine it, and then, of course, disseminate it on the learning management system of the school. Actually, it was a transformative journey for not just the student, but for me as well as a teacher. And actually, the students have experienced also identity shift when I collected their reflection logs throughout the process. And most of them have changed their attitudes, and they have developed agency in the English classroom, and now they are more engaged, more active, and they are bringing out new ideas. And nowadays we are working on building up games that solve the problems for the low achievers to learn vocabulary. Okay, so I have exploited this tech savviness of the students in the English classroom, and the classroom atmosphere has really changed. So this is one way of how we do things. So this is actually exploiting what the students have, and in a way that attracts them, that relates their real life to what they study in the classroom. So we move from the abstract to the action to reality is one of the best ways to engage students in our classrooms. So this is an anecdote of actually what we do.
Thank you very much. So your anecdote was especially going for learning and to improve learning. So it's a classroom-based practice. So maybe the question was quite related to doing personal research, maybe writing a PhD, but it was quite interesting to hear this, because I also do similar practices with my students when I teach about topics such as climate change, sustainability. So I ask students to go outside of the classroom to participate in cleaning manifestations. They take photos, videos, they reflect on their activities. They also take videos on the rubbish outside in their cities and in the sea, and they bring this to classroom. They discuss it. They talk about many ideas and how they are developing their citizenship mainly. And at the end of the project, they have manifested this in an exposition at the department hall. So they presented all their work, and the students were coming to discuss with them. At the same time, I did my evaluation, because it was at the end of the day an assignment for a semester. Very nice. I really like.
And this is actually, was disseminated through research, and this is actually action research in practice. This is how we do. Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
This is what I usually do. So the action research actually provided the basic framework for this to happen. So we started from the problem, we tried various solutions, and of course it was cyclic at the same time, because we didn't come to this out of a blink. So we have been through, and it was refined many times till now. It is accepted for publication. So the way we started it and the way we ended up is different. So this is one way of conducting action research from your own classroom. And actually, in my PhD thesis, I have worked on action research, and this is why most. This is why I answered this way. So action research. Now you see the connection. So action research is basically derived from the classroom, our classrooms, and what we do. It is usually used to solve real life problems that we face in our classrooms. It is the same as research, design and development research nowadays that is related to technology and designing applications and designing new digital solutions for actual problems that are either in the classroom or on another national level. So this is the essence actually of it.
Yes, Abdulkader.
Hello. I just want to salute Dr. Najat for her hard work and efforts that she's investing in her classes. Oh my God, if I had like 3 of Najat in my department, I would be great. I'll be feeling great, really.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think, yeah, we're speaking about the research context, right? I believe that once you have fully embraced the researcher identity, the world is going to be your context. You walk in the street and you think about research. So that's research idea. You see something wrong, like you be saying that's research idea. You're having a simple small talk conversation with your colleagues or with your students, or you see something unusual. You think about it in a researcher way, in a researcher mindset. You're going to say, well, that's a research idea as well. So this is you navigating the research content that's going to be your so the arena is going to be your world. So everything, wherever you go, you may spot research ideas for you to be inspired, for you to get ideas from. And just because you say, let's say you are specialized in applied linguistics or you're specialized in didactics, which is what goes in the classroom, this does not mean that you cannot do research in other fields, right? So if you see something unusual, I mean, even if you may not have the background for you to do research about it by yourself, you could always collaborate with other people who are specialized in that field. And very recently, I also teach in the UFC. And I have inspectors, I have lawyers, I have doctors also studying English. Mainly it's technical English, but still it is kind of English. And they have proposed many opportunities for me to engage in research with them, whether it's in the field of, for example, very lately, an inspector who is who's doing research about the quality assurance it was the second article about cheating in primary school, middle school, and these kind of stages. So this was his research interest, and he proposed a collaboration between me and him, and that was a very interesting topic for me. And I told him, well, sign me up for that project. I would love to be involved. So just because you may say, I am interested, my context is, let's say, didactics and whatever goes inside university, this does not prohibit you from engaging in other types of research. And also, what you said about theory informing practice and practice also informing theory, I think in my situation, I have learned quite a lot about didactics, pedagogy, what goes in the classroom, how to motivate students. But the thing is, when you are facing students in real life, I'm not going to say it's completely different, but it does give you some new insights. So when you are actually on the ground, you are going to come across some of the ideas that you have seen in the literature. And sometimes what goes in practice can actually inform your thoughts about how things should be done. And as they say, I mean, the best way to learn something is to teach it. So if you're speaking about the context of didactics and you're doing, so let's say, research about how to motivate students or something like that, the best way for you to do this research is actually to go to the classroom and see what actually goes in the classroom. For you to have an inside eye about what goes in the classroom, and that's going to immensely reshape your idea about let's say motivation, whatever concept that you want to discuss. And really, because sometimes when you are reading the literature is contextualized in different contexts. So you could be reading literature that may not fit to the context that you are studying. That's why you cannot always project what's been read to what actually goes into the classroom. That's why it's always good to have a very both experiences, which is reading what have been written before and actually experiencing things firsthand, whether it's in the classroom or whether it's in whatever you consider as real context. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean,
I have,
yes.
sorry to interrupt, but I thank you, Abdul Qadir, for what you were saying. And as for, yes, the context, I would join my voice to yours and say that particularly in ESP classrooms, most of the research, I would say, has been done from outsiders, rarely from practitioners. And when it comes to reality in the classroom, it's something completely different. What is going on in the ESP classroom is still, I would say, a dark spot in modern research that must be unveiled. Okay? And I would rather talk about needs analysis. Many and most of the researchers think that, yes, a needs analysis is the skeleton, is the heart, is the backbone of ESP. But when it comes to reality in the classroom, the actual learning needs of the students are not taken into consideration, and they are completely different from, I would say, the assumptions of needs analysis, because needs analysis is more about assumptions, I would say. I do not call it real needs. They are assumptions of what might happen in the workplace, but the learner himself and the learner profile are ignored so far. So actually, I would again insist and accentuate on having an insider look, okay, in the ESP classroom, in particular, in other classrooms, and let us not take especially needs analysis as a magic wand that may solve all the problems in the ESP classroom. And especially when talking about EMI and ESP in the modern era and the Algerian reform, ESP is not a magic wand, and even needs analysis is not a magic wand, but translating the real needs of the students, the actual needs of the students in the classroom. And I would also say that the needs of the students that are studying or specialize in a specific field are completely different from those. Analysis is work-based, not learning-based or EMI-based. So here, again, this is a huge gap in the classroom. Thank you for raising the point.
Abdul Qadir, you want to carry on?
Yes. Thank you so much for the follow-up, Najat. Thank you so much. I just want to say that this is a piece of advice that really served me, and perhaps it's going to serve the researchers in here who have joined us. The devil is in the details. So if you really want to explore something, you need to go to dive deeper in the details. And if you're speaking about the details also involve the context, the place where you actually conducting the research, right? I remember in my research, my research was about learner autonomy, and most of the research that I have read about autonomy basically say Algerian students are not autonomous, they are dependent, autonomy does not work in Algeria, things like that. But on the contrary, I look at myself and I say, well, I am a very autonomous person. I mean, if I was not autonomous, I wouldn't have got to places where I am now. And if you were not autonomous, you would not have got to places where you are now. So what is this contradiction between what this research is saying and what I am actually experiencing firsthand? So I went deeper into the details of the theory, and I went deeper into the detail to what goes in the classroom. Then I tried to unravel that, this contradiction, and eventually I was able to pinpoint the contradictions and where the differences are, and hopefully contribute to the overall body of research. But this would not have happened if it was not for me going actually to the ground, and for me to go to the literature and really examining every bit of what have been said and trying to compare it and contrast it with what actually goes in the real context. So yeah, always remember that the devil is in the details, and always try to go deeper and delve deeper into the context and the literature of things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I agree with both of you, and I also believe that students' profile is missing a lot in the research and in the practice. If I talk about myself, I did a research that represents my background because I wish as a student, as a child, to be asked about my future, what I aspire to do. So this what has motivated me to raise the question, what do the learners or the women learners in the Algerian context want to reach or to complete or to achieve? That's what I have looked at a narrative, and I found that it has been a lot talked about narrative from a literary point of view. And I was interested into bringing the stories representing my context, my background, between brackets, myself in the past, into the research conduct. And I thought of, and I did a deep research, and I found there is an area called narrative inquiry. Again, I have found many gaps. There was narrative inquiry talked or search from an oral perspective. There was no quite good models in a written form. I found Labov's model. It's very not outdated. It's very always valid. It's Labov, but it was not very well established in terms of continuity and research by others. So I have read the model and I have developed my own model. And I think I always teach my master's students, do not worry about the literature. The literature is always there. Think and question yourself, your background, your context, the gaps you wished you didn't have. That's where maybe you can create and innovate and contribute to what they call a research gap. Amira, do you want to carry on?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for the interesting discussion. I really learned a lot from Najat and Abdelkader, and you also, Wafa, talking about narrative inquiry. I would like just to add a comment to Abdelkader when he said Algerian learners are not autonomous. It is said the same thing about critical thinking, that Algerian learners are not critical thinkers. Although we are born critical thinkers. If you see the child, how like children, how they play, how they create games out of nothing, you see like they are critical thinkers. And they even try to solve problems as well, analyze, criticize things. Anyways, so this is about pre-assumptions that we have about ourselves, and this is the background where we come from. Actually, we do self-bullying, even in academia. So this is something that we need to criticize a lot and to be critical about it. And we do not really, so we should like cut that chain somewhere, and we question, why are we saying these about ourselves? I think this is, if we look at our backgrounds, we are a post-colonial country, and we inherited many discourses about Algerians ourselves from the colonial, which is France. So if we look at how France treated us, we were half human beings, we were half citizens. So for them, we lack all the skills. So before trying to regenerate those discourses or narratives about Algerians, try to question from where we got them. So I really hope that the new generation of researchers and even the old ones would really come against all those things. Do you want to say something, and then I carry on I answer the question? Abdelkader, you can go.
Yeah. Thank you so much for raising that point. The thing is, I think this should help. I mean, this conversation should help us decide which topics to speak about next time, and also to do research not for the sake of doing research, but to have like a real impact in real life. If I'm doing research just for the sake of doing research, then my research is not going to be that impactful, and it's not going to change anything. On a different notice, so basically, I was watching I think a movie or something like that on social media, and there is this man who said, a movie that does not change anything in you, then what's the point? It does not make you cry, it does not make you laugh, it does not make you, I don't know, do anything, then what's the point of making that movie? The same thing that goes for research. A research does not make any impact, what's the point of doing it? So it's always good to look at what goes on the ground and to assess it for you to make some research about it, a research that you actually believe that's going to change something, and you're going to leave, that's going to leave something behind you when you depart this world. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is one of my colleagues in Southampton said, there is research and there is gossip. So not everything interesting in the field or in society or within the classroom is interesting or worth researching. So maybe you are just talking about it as if you are gossiping. So there is a kind of a blurry area between gossip and doing research.
Yeah, excuse me, I just want to add something. My
Sure.
supervisor used to say, you have to submit your work. You're not going to get a Nobel Prize for that. But for me now, whenever I see my thesis is cited, I feel it's a Nobel Prize.
See? Yeah. It's
Yeah, wanted to add something. Sorry, Amira. Actually, I agree with Abdul Qadir when he said that the learners are not that autonomous. And I think he is relating this to the impact of the research being conducted by the student. I would give an example. It is not a prejudgment or an assumption or so. In master's vivas in particular, we have come across this particular discussion a lot, that when it comes to the interpretation of the results and when it comes to the discussion sessions, they are poorly written, or the interpretation is superficially done, and the students more often than not fail to answer the research questions they have answered, or they do not know how, or how they even don't know how to interpret the result they have got, and how to turn these or to relate them to the question that they first asked and to the hypotheses they have stated at the beginning of the research. And I think this is a problem also of critical thinking, as you said. And actually, myself, I have even thought of researching this particular problem because it's occurred a lot, especially in the recent years. This is, I think, a problem that has to do not just with study methodology, but also putting it into practice and with the higher order thinking skills of evaluation, analysis, and of course, synthesis. The students fail to synthesize information, which is the highest order thinking according to the last inventory of thinking skills. So I think we have a problem of critical thinking in Algeria, and in particular when it comes to research. And this, of course, would have a direct impact on the impact of this research in reality and in the field. And of course, as I said, why would I conduct a research if it has not an impact, be it positive or negative, or it shows something that wasn't disseminated before? Why would they bother to do so?
Well, I guess when I said critical thinking, if you are linking it to dissertation writing and writing the discussion and interpreting data, I think, yes, we all have been across that, and we have all been through that, finding students lacking the tools to discuss and interpret data. But I think because they lack training, not because they lack critical thinking. We never taught our students to interpret data. We never taught our students to write a discussion section. So if we taught them that, so if you lack knowledge, you cannot reach, if you see like Bloom's taxonomy, you need knowledge at the base, and then you go to evaluate and analyze and then criticize. But we didn't equip them with the knowledge, so how can they reach those stages of being critical about the data they've got? Okay, shall I go back to my question and answer the question you asked, Wafa?
Yes, please.
Okay. So concerning how the background is shaping our understanding of theories, I would maybe now grab you away from the field of applied linguistics. I actually studied two things at the same time. I did a master's degree in biology and a master's degree in English, and I even started a PhD degree in biology here in Algeria. And then I got the scholarship and I went to England to do PhD in England in modern languages and linguistics, where I involved Algerian students or learners of languages, first language speakers of French, first language speakers of English, and I made them exchange in both English and French. And what I looked at is how they negotiate their cultures, how they decorticate the stereotypes. So I used the framework of Adrian Holiday, blocks and threads. So you start from a block, which is a stereotype. You Algerians are not critical thinkers, until we reach like a point. So we keep discussing that. So as if we are untangling that knot of being not critical thinkers, until we reach a point that no, maybe it's because of this, no, maybe because of that. So we kind of decorticate those stereotypes. So that was my interest in my PhD. So I see the pattern of the interlocutors they go through and their communicative practices they use in order to untangle those knots. So how the context shaped me and how I moved directly from that. In the university where I did my PhD, there were many talks organized weekly, and as I said, I mingled a lot from people from different backgrounds, and I was seeing, like I was all the time observing how people communicate, and there were people from different corners of the world communicating. They have different accents, different backgrounds, different level of proficiencies of English, of course. And I was like seeing how people like try to reach understanding through misunderstanding. And I was like, oh, see, it's very interesting, like the strategies they were using. And then through the talks that I attended, talking about intercultural communication, culture, how migrants try to integrate in foreign societies, and so on. So all these like made me think, oh, why not? I go to that topic of interculturality and try to implement it in another thing. And I still use technology as I wanted. I did it online. And I included Algerians. So I didn't really, I didn't really start from scratch. I used a few things from my first plan, but there was like a big change, like a totally different topic. So, and then when I was reading about interculturality, I was all the time reflecting on myself. I'm somebody who is going through an intercultural experience. So how am I managing that processes of being intercultural speaker, being an intercultural person? So those processes made me reflect a lot on my background, coming, as I said, like background academic and background social as well, coming from Algeria. And I was really, so for me, I was very Algerian, but nobody was considering me Algerian because of how I look. I don't look Muslim, I don't look Arab, I don't look Algerian, I don't look North African. So I was kind of trying to, again, work on my identity there and say, no, from my inside, I'm very Algerian. So you should see me Algerian. You see, so, and then I said, I can't impose that on others, but we can kind of negotiate that, okay, little by little, and then insert my identity the way I want, because you have the assigned identity. So what people think of you and then what you think of yourself. So my understanding of culture has changed because of the context and because of the exposure I had in the University of Southampton, of the talks of many scholars who are engaged in that. And also from the books I've read, the articles I've read, and also from my personal experience and my personal background. So everything was kind of, as you are saying, it is an iterative process, cyclical, but it's never linear. So I have to read as an innocent or as a naive, and then I reflect on it as me, as Amira, with all my background, with all my lived experiences, in order to come to an understanding which is related to me. So I would like to highlight a point here. When writing a literature review or a theoretical framework, or let's say the theoretical part of your thesis, never just report what others said, what others found out, but rather what you think of what they've said. You would say, no, we should be objective, but remember that it is you doing research. So being you doing research or being another one doing research, the research should not look the same, because you have your agency over that and you have your voice as a researcher. So your background, of course, will shape the way you see things. As I said, we come from a post-colonial country, we are multilinguals, we have many inherited discourses, and we have our own narratives, and we have, as individuals, different lived experiences. So we shouldn't assume that the way we are going to write our literature review, let's say about EMI, would be the same as, I don't know, another person, even an Algerian researcher from Constantine who conducted or did their PhD in the UK, even like having the same, let's say, from outside, having the same experiences. But if you go like inside, we've got different different individual experiences that we cannot ignore when doing that. So writing a literature review which lacks your input as a researcher would make it plain, without life, let's say, and wouldn't really make any difference. So if I see the cover page, or if I don't see it, if I see your name or if I don't see your name, it wouldn't make a difference. So why did you then write this literature review? And again, the definitions we use in the literature review, there is always a working definition or a functioning definition. From where we got that definition? Of course, the topic, the paradigm we are using, yes, but then our backgrounds also would really shape that definition that we will end up using to guide us in our research. Another thing I would like to highlight here is, even if we, I lost the point. Sorry about that.
It's okay. You have highlighted many key points.
Yeah, just one more thing I wanted to say, and I forgot.
Okay, yeah, Najat, would you like to say something?
Go
We go
ahead.
back to you, Amira, in a minute.
Sorry. Yeah.
When it comes to writing literature, I always say to my students, if you don't have a theory, build your own theory. Okay, and here where what we call the researcher spirit must appear. Okay, as you were saying, Amira, yeah, we have to read the literature critically to build our own literature, I would say, point of view, our literature standpoint, our point of departure, because the literature or the theoretical contour is where we start. It is something to back up our research and to give it a track or to give it a path, or it's like we are drawing our own roadmap or our track or our path that we are going to follow in our research. So we must back up our idea. And how would we come to this if we are unable to link our idea to what already exists, or to sort it out as something new from what the others have done? As you were saying, every single context has its own characteristics,
Exactly.
its own strategies, its own, especially when it comes to EMI or other contexts. If we talk about EMI in English-only countries or English-speaking countries, it's completely different from multilingual countries, and it is completely different from I would say bilingual countries, and it's also different from other contexts. So adopting EMI or a multilingual perspective in a country that is already rich culturally and linguistically is completely different from single, I would say, language countries or monolingual countries. So here the context has its own play, and of course we have to learn to formalize our own frameworks, our own conceptions of literature, and mobilize them to in our favor to support our stance, and of course in a way that of course generates and adds to our context and to our research.
Thank you, Najat.
I remembered the point I was going to say.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry about that. It's actually when, there is the big claim that research should be objective. And I said, okay, the working definition and so on. But there is also another point, like the selection of the literature in itself is informed by us. So I decide which source I would include in my thesis and which source I exclude from it, which source I use it just for me as a background knowledge, but never cite it in my work. So this is part of also our subjectivities that we reflect on them. And those subjectivities, they come from, again, our backgrounds. And how I was aware of this, it's thanks to my different backgrounds. I learned a lot from my teachers in Constantine, and then I learned a lot from my supervisor. I learned a little, but from the academic, let's say, environment that I was in Southampton. And being aware that I'm a researcher from the South, the global South, also made me criticize heavily the theories that I used and the concepts that I relied on in my PhD. So as I said, even if the context was the UK, and even the sources that I used, most of them from British scholars, but the UK itself helped me and taught me to criticize even the works coming from British scholars. So that's the point. This is how my lived experiences, my academic backgrounds have shaped the way I designed my research and the way I interpreted and I used the frameworks I used in my PhD thesis, and now also in my publications and the research I'm conducting as an independent researcher.
Thank you very much. Professor Lamri, you want to say something?
Well, thank you, Wafa, for giving me the opportunity to explain or to make things more simple concerning the review of LET. I think that we need to ask ourselves, what is the role of this part of our research? We are speaking about reporting, that is to say, writing. But before that, we need to build knowledge. We need to understand and to contextualize what we have understood in terms of theory and to make them into practice. This is the role of what we call review of LET. In other words, a researcher as a scholar is asked to read first. Just when I said read a simple word, but that is to say to read, to understand, to study the different global concepts adopted by all societies in the context of research. I'm speaking, we will not specify the context of research. The fact of understanding and reading, we will build a kind of subjectivity, a subjective view that will be after used in order to conduct the research. By my reading, by my understanding of the different views, I will be influenced by a theory, by a view, by a formal research, and then I will apply it. In addition to that, how I will be influenced? Of course, my background knowledge about the topic, but also my social environment, as you have said. My identity will influence my selection of the theory I was influenced in. And then I will test it. I will make an experiment. I will try to understand my context of investigation. Then it will come what we call the last part, reporting. I think that writing a review of it should come after investigating the practical part. Because writing just to write, it is done in some cases, but at the surface level. Individuals are not taken into consideration. Of course, we behave differently. We learn differently. We use different learning strategies. But broadly speaking, I'm trying to explain in different settings that it is very important to adopt another view of ESP, as it is nowadays used in Japan. We have new concept of English for general specific purposes.
Definitely, yeah.
And it is used in academic context. ESP is more used in professional context with a very limited number of students.
Definitely.
However, in academic context, as we have an important number, we have shift from the idea of ESP to the idea of providing a kind of a general or specific general context. So according to the broad, what we call, or to the stakeholders, to institutional requirements, we try to design a kind of English course, not an ESP course, an English course useful for specific group of learners, without specific, with a broad specific target, not specific to learners' interest. So we have a problem, and also the concept of EMI also.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you. The way ESP is done and conducted in Algeria is, I would say, chaotic and problematic at the same time. Yes, there is an overlap of terminology. The way terminology is used is completely different. Yeah, yes. I totally agree. And this is why I said that most courses of ESP are vocational based, that they are used in the workplace. I totally agree with you. And yes, and when it comes to the learners, and in particular in our context, in the EMI context, we must look to those needs, as you said, those learning needs that are related to learning the subject matter, because they are completely different. They are needed for understanding the specialized subjects, I would say, or modules. And when it comes to the workplace, there will come another training completely different. Yes, the focus must be, of course, on the language. And for that, myself, I always opted for a functional, notional approach or syllabus. I always work on that. Try to show the students, or to focus on those notions and functions that the students will need to understand, of course, and to communicate, to collaborate, and even write and give presentations, of course, in their specialities. Academically speaking, yes, I agree. I 100% agree with what you were saying, Professor Lamri. Actually, this needs another panel discussion on itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, ESP in Algeria.
Yes, I do agree.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your efforts.
I had a very nasty question to Amira. Do we have EMI in Algeria? This needs also another panel discussion.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
So now, Abdelkader, are you around? You want to add something? Because I want to also...
Yes, I was here the whole time. I'm kind of driving back to university. I've got a class to teach.
Nice for having you. It's really nice having you.
Thank
Go
you so much for the invitation. It was such a brilliant conversation that I had with my fellow participants. Hopefully to meet in more physical situations rather than online.
Inshallah, we're looking forward. We're looking forward. Okay.
We're pleased meeting you.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Yes. Maybe
Okay.
you, as a head of department, you organize something for us. You have more power. It's about power dynamics sometimes.
That would be. I mean, I'm not planning to organize any conferences anytime soon. After what happened yesterday, it was really, really draining. Honestly, it was just so draining.
Yeah, it is part of commitment.
I'll need some recovery phase. Then we'll think about other conferences. Why not?
Bless you. Thank you very much, Abdelkader. Okay, I want to say something, maybe as a proposition for a dissertation writing. I found that writing the background chapter was very informative and a process of learning for me. When I learned about women in the pre-colonial era and women education in the colonial era, then during the independence, I learned a lot about my background. Also, I had more of sensitivity towards my context, where I come from as a researcher. That has helped me to shape my understanding of the main concepts I was looking to investigate, such as learner identity and learner agency. I could decide about this subjectivity you mentioned. I don't think that there were biases, because every research is biased, even if it's in finance. Who makes you agree or disagree that this percentage is really representative or no? A software, is this enough? So for me, the concept of agency has become clear when I read about women education, women as a revolutionaries, women agency as a writers. So I have witnessed through my reading, presenting anecdotes of Zahra Drif as an educated woman, a revolutionary, then an author. His book was released or launched in 2017, translated into English. I was very lucky to have it. So I think things are harmonized, and they're not necessarily linear, but they sort themselves out when you are reading a lot, reflecting a lot, and there is this concept of reflexivity. How much you raise questions, how much you are able to discuss them. I don't like the word answer research questions. I used to discuss. We never answer. There is no real answers and final answers. We are in a process of discovery and investigation. So I suggest having a background chapter would really empower you to write your literature review. I couldn't write my literature review chapter until the third year of my PhD. And it was due to knowing about and understanding my research context. I have decided that this definition I'm going to adapt to and contribute with more definitions that define and identify my participants. Okay, this is what I wanted to say. I think we have to move to, we have really discussed much of question 3, because we talked about participants, the context. So maybe in very small anecdotes or stories you wanted to further give, I'm going to raise the final question. In anecdote, tell us how had data analysis changed your research orientation? Najat, yes. Najat, then we move to Abdelkader. I'm sorry, if you are in rush, we can do. If you are going to your office.
I just have to say one thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's him.
I submitted my my data analysis chapter to Khawla around 6 or 7 times. Yeah. It was horrible experience. It was like the worst experience, the worst chapter that I had that I had written, you know, when it comes to struggles and all. Yeah. So it's an ongoing process. It's something that you need to refine by time. And you know what? Even now, when I look back at my thesis, I see like the development of my work from chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Sometimes it feels like 3 or 4 people have collaborated to write that work, not one single person.
Yeah.
So that's something very natural. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much again for everything you have done. Thank you so much for your insightful ideas. And hopefully, I need to rush now. Hopefully, we meet in other.
Thank you very much for accepting my invitation. It's a pleasure having you with us. I wish you all the best with your administrative tasks and research. Don't forget your research and your passion.
Thank you.
Take care,
Bye.
Abdul Qadir. See you in another chance. Yes, Najat. Najat, are you ready, or we go with any?
Yeah. As for data analysis, I guess it is a continuous learning process. There are always new ways for analyzing data. There are always new ways for interpreting them, for looking at things. And I also, Wafa, I use first the literature. When I first read the literature, I read it to develop my questionnaires, my data collection tools. I always base them on the literature, but I do not write the literature first. Okay, I start by the background, the rationale for the paper, for the research topic or that I'm undertaking. I always start by the rationale, and once the rationale is clear, I go to the literature. I read the literature at times to make sure that there is a gap or there is a problem that is not treated, because nowadays when we look at things, it's completely different. We must also consider whether the work is publishable or not. If the gap is already treated, there must be another way. And this where comes, yes, data, this might be treated differently through new data collection tools and analysis. So there is always a different way to do things. So as I was saying in my PhD, it was an exploratory action research. And for the exploration, I have used different tools. For the exploration, actually, I have used a scale, like a 5-point Likert scale, and it was quantitative, and I had to learn SPSS for the analysis, for analyzing the data. And of course, this was all, and I have used internet use logs for the students. And these logs, when we say a log, it means something that the students have to keep for a given period of time, and they had to write down their online and technological everyday activities for 1 month. I have collected the logs and then analyzed them both quantitatively and qualitatively, so that I can match their everyday activities with what to do in the classroom. So the idea didn't come from vain. And for the teachers, it was more like a competency check-in. So I have some sort read the whole literature and then developed the scale, the statements to use. And I have backed this up with something qualitative because they are more deep when it comes to raising problems inside the classroom. So I have used also an interview. And when it comes, and this was, and then these results, that I have analyzed all the results, both quantitatively and qualitatively, and then compared the results from the teachers and the students to build up my action or second phase, which is the action. And then the action was orchestrating training, that of bibliometric studies and analysis, and it was a fruitful experience that we have come across. And really, I'm always keen to learn something new when it comes to data, either data collection or analysis tools. And of course, they have always an impact on the dissemination, of course, and publishing of our work.
Amira?
The question talks about how had data analysis changed your research orientation. I would go back to data collection phase, because if you read about methodology and if you read about data analysis, data collection is the preliminary phase of data analysis. Data collection is the first step towards data analysis. So the data collection took me phase in my PhD, I'm talking, took me 6 to 8 months, because I had to arrange different meetings with my participants, and I engaged them, as I said, in conversations, one in English, and then after a few days, they will converse in French. So in total, I had 51 hours of conversations, video recorded conversations that I then had to transcribe. So while I was collecting data, so like this, it was as I said, video conversations on Skype. You remember Skype old days? So they were conversing on Skype, and I mute myself. I turn off my camera when they are conversing, just to ensure that they are not affected by my presence. And while they were conversing, I was listening and taking notes. So this is already like a phase in data analysis, trying to focus on the most important aspects they were doing during the conversation. While transcribing, I also engaged in the analysis, and I found many interesting things. So how this shifted my interest, again, I was attending talks, I was also receiving training about different aspects of data analysis, even in teaching. So I was all the time in the process of reflecting on my data, trying to analyze, make sense of my data. And with time, I realized that maybe I should use conversation analysis. It's very important to analyze my data, since I was looking at very tiny details in the conversations. And then I was like, this is a lingua franca encounter. So why not making English as a lingua franca as a framework, informing not only the theoretical part, but my whole research? And this is what I did. And then at the end, while I was approaching the end, so I didn't write my analysis like Abdelkader. So you see, if you listen to different stories of PhD holders, you find like the journey is different for each one of us. For me, I didn't write. I left it until the end. I literally typed and submitted my thesis. So I kept reflecting, but while reflecting, I was participating in conferences using my data and my understanding, and trying to get feedback from the audience. Am I right? Is my interpretation accurate? If it's not accurate, is it at least convincing? So I was going all the time through those processes of learning, analyzing, going back, trying to see if it is convincing enough, because it is qualitative analysis. So it's quite challenging to justify my interpretation. And then I came across, so I think in December or in January 2019, and I had only 5 months to submit my thesis, my whole thesis. Adrian Holiday published his book of blocks and threads. Before that, in the summer, in May 2018, we invited Holiday to an event that I co-organized, and he shared the idea of his book that he published in 2019 about blocks and threads, and I was like, yeah, this will be really useful in my data analysis.
I was a participant in that book. I make part of the
Yes, I read you are in the acknowledgement actually.
Yes.
I can share it with you. I have the book. I still have it.
I had it as well. He sent it to me. Yeah.
Ah, good, great.
So share it with me then.
Of course, yes. But I have the hard copy. See, I
Ah,
received it. I remember just after the Christmas break, and I was like, yes. It was like a eureka moment actually when he delivered his talk in May 2018. And I was, yeah, why not? Yeah, the blocks and threads really is really useful concepts, let's say, or framework to analyze my data. And I applied it along with conversation analysis, and then I had to go back to my literature review and try to include it and then revise my literature review so that it can accommodate this new framework.
For a test in general, there is no general test. Okay, so it's dependent on what you are doing, the context where you are working, your students, the experiment that you are conducting, and so on and so forth. So it is context based. So, and there are different, and of course the type of test that you are conducting. So I guess you are better placed, and you have to look in the literature of the topic that you are undertaking. I would do this if I were in your shoes. Yes, Amira, please.
Just a practical trick. Go to the papers dealing with your topic, okay? And try to go through the references there and see which ones would serve you.
Yeah.
This is an easy way to do that.
Exactly. To do like snowballing in the research reference.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. One last question. I will answer it. I also give an answer for Zainab. Reflecting on your successful dissertation completion, what single most effective habit or mindset, especially one that combated procrastination, proved crucial for your perseverance? For me, the word consistency, because I had to do my PhD every day. It became, as they say in the UK, your baby. So if you have a baby, you take care of it. So this is your research.
Definitely, yeah.
Don't step aside from it for a long time, but stick to it. Read more, always work hard. For me, consistency and perseverance were the most mindset I have developed during my PhD. Amira?
The same. I would just give you something practical how to do what she is saying.
Yeah.
So make it part of your routine. It is your part or your full-time job, okay? As if you are going to study, okay? The same thing, you do research. To finish PhD on time, this is the trick. Just make it your first priority and part of your routine. What I did myself, try to know yourself as a researcher, okay? You don't know yourself enough, believe me. But during the PhD, you will discover lots of things about you, including learning preferences and learning hours, productivity hours. What are like your peak productivity hours? What I used to do, I have a diary, okay? When I sit in front of my laptop and I open my Word document and the PDF files of the articles, and I put piles of books next to me, what I do when I feel like, okay, now I'm going to work, I check the time, I put the day, the time, and I see how much I'm going to write. Okay, how many words? I check how many words I already wrote. And then when I feel like, oh, I'm going to check my phone, I got a notification from Instagram, Facebook, Messenger, I don't know, LinkedIn, X, I don't know, ResearchGate. I'm going to get distracted. I stop and I note down the time. After like a few weeks, I analyzed that diary and I saw, oh, I am very productive after 6 p.m. because I've never been a morning person. And I'm like, yeah, why should I go early then? I lose my energy. I can't concentrate in the morning. This is me. I'm more productive after 6 p.m. So I used to do all the things that make me happy during the day. And then I go to university after 2 p.m. I sit, I prepare my books, I go to the library, maybe grab others. I sit and download, do only the systematic things, reply to emails, send emails. And then when it is like almost 6 p.m., I open my file and I sit and write. You see, so try to know about yourself, your peak hours of productivity, of concentration, and your learning preferences. Do you learn more when you watch a YouTube video about the concept you will be researching, or you learn more when just reading? Do you learn more when reading on PDF, like the soft version, or when you print it out? Learn more when you take like notes separately or when you highlight on the paper. So you need to know yourself before applying any strategy.
Thank you. That's last
Okay, I
one.
wanted to add something. For me, I got bored easily. So actually, I have changed my habits a lot. I used to be a night owl, so I study a lot at night. I do a lot at night. But with kids, this is not feasible. This is when I was single. I used to work all the night till the morning, and it was okay. So I had to change actually this habit, and I became a bird. A birthday. So I changed to studying in the morning. And another thing that worked best for me is changing the location. I take 2 days or to work at home, 2 other days in the library, at times in a coffee, really. Other days, I even used to go to, why not, an airport, to the airport lobby, and take a corner, a quiet corner, and work there. These are some of the strategies that when I really stressed that I try, and they really worked for me. And more than that, I used to take notes. I don't know if I'm the old generation or so. I used to take notes a lot. So I read, take notes, and then stay and write down, and then sit and write down what I have read. Myself, when it comes to just presenting the results, it was not a problem. I used to do this, the whole chapter or the whole part in one night. But when it comes to the interpretation and then the discussion, and I take a lot of time, and there is no harm, because it is there where we need more to be reflective and reflexive, as you already said. So I take my time. So there is no harm. I didn't look at how much papers I have written in one day, but I have given each part, I would say, its right time, because when we just write down the results, this one got this percentage, and this one has said that, and that doesn't take time actually. But interpreting them and discussing the results and relating them to reality, and then sorting out the implications and the recommendations would take more time. So I would say give each part its right time, its needed time, and its right effort. And myself, if I have had, I would say, a roadmap, it would have been easier for me, because I have changed the topic myself. I have reached the third year, and then after my visit to UK and Istanbul University, where I met Carol Griffith and the talk with her, I have changed everything. Basically everything from scratch. I have changed everything. So I have had to reset and change the whole work. And on this where perseverance and commitment come into play. Even though I have put aside all that I have done in the previous 3 years, I have had to put a new plan for myself. And for the second phase, I have had a better plan. And this was a really good kick-off for the whole work. That's after that, after having this plan or this roadmap, I have finished the thesis in just 2 years. And however, I have spent 3 years where I was completely lost because I wasn't really in control of the work, and I have come to a dead end. Okay, but this didn't stop me from starting over and from finalizing the work.
Thank you, Najat. Amira, do you want to say something?
Yes.
There is a question, Wafa, about EMI.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
Let me just check that.
So it says, how can researchers effectively conduct studies on English medium instruction in contexts like Algeria, where EMI data are still very limited?
Yeah, I've seen that. Do you want to go with that question?
Yeah, I think you should be happy, Amani, that they already, even if it is kind of baby steps, they've already started using EMI in medical classes. So you may go and see how it is going on there. And they have also started, I think 2 years ago, teaching modules from the fundamental unit using EMI. Yeah, thank you so much, Wafa, for the invitation again. I really spent a great time with you all. And I am glad that I have made your acquaintances, Najat and Abdelkader. Thank you so much for this opportunity again, Wafa. I really enjoyed every moment.
Yeah, me too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Wafa, for bringing us together, for the idea itself, for meeting you, Amira. It was a great pleasure. Abdelkader also, and even professor, I forgot his name. So it was Lamri. Yes, it was a great gathering. I have learned a lot from all of you. It was a really rich discussion, and I hope to meet you in future endeavors. And we keep collaborating with all of you. Wafa, we are already working together in many things. The same goes. An invitation for you, Amira, to keep in touch and to collaborate in future endeavors. Why not?
Sure.
Thank you for the attendees, for the discussions, and for their questions, of course.
Thank you very much as well to Zia Slimani, who accepted my invitation to co-host this panel discussion with me. Thank you very much, Fawzia.
Hi, Fawzia.
See you all in another event.
Hi, Amira. Thank you so much, Amira. I have learned a lot today. Thank you so much. And also to Mrs. Nuri Najat. I love you too. Ma salama. Thank you.
Ma salama. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Wafa, do I have to leave or?
I will end the call for everyone.
D'accord.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.